Some Native American Prophecies and the Baha'i Faith. Written and read by myself, Roman Orona. The Americas, North, Central, and South America, are home to over 980 indigenous nations. And these nations all have different languages, traditions, clothing, housing, diets, etc. I am, for instance, from the southwestern United States, but am part Apache, part Pueblo, and part Yaqui. But most people would just see me as a Native American, without much thought to the diversity of culture which exists within indigenous America. Unfortunately, indigenous culture in the United States has mostly been depicted as being simplistic and barbaric in literature, television, cinema, and other forms of media. With images of people living in teepees, wearing buckskin clothes and feathers, and carrying out what are depicted as thoughtless and violent acts toward white settlers. But it is not a well-known fact. It can be argued that over 80% of the world's foods and medicines currently used today are from indigenous peoples of the Americas. Indigenous people have lived with and developed their own judicial systems and national laws over countless generations, which incorporate and integrate the laws of nature. They performed surgery, built sophisticated cities, villages, or pueblos with running water and the disposal of human waste. They developed farming techniques still utilized today. And tribes were also well versed in the arts and sciences. Indigenous peoples and their cultures, despite all the current and past atrocities committed towards them, still exist in the Americas today. With some of us living on reservations, which is land where we were forced to live, towns, big cities, and some of us may even be your neighbor. One common thread shared among all indigenous peoples of the Americas is that they are a spiritual and prayerful people, constantly supplicating to the Creator through songs, dance, stories, visions, fasting, and other practices. As part of this, indigenous peoples have prophecies that have been passed on through many generations, and many of these prophecies have foretold about this time that the world currently sees itself in. A world and people of separation, destruction, confusion, and chaos. A time where humanity is at a turning point, where our choices today will determine the future course of civilization. A time to live in brotherhood and simplicity, establishing harmony with each other and all living things. I wanted to share some of my knowledge of just a few of these Native American prophecies with you. We have been told that a time will come when we will be purified. We will experience chaos and destruction in all the kingdoms of nature. The races will be reunited. Barriers of religion and nationality will fall, as all the people of the world will realize the need for unity. We will heal the damage done to Mother Earth, the source of all life. We will see the return of one or more great teachers who will guide us into the future. The Hopi people, who make their home on a reservation in the desert of northern Arizona, have traveled the world speaking of their many prophecies. One of those prophecies speaks of a religion that will come and bring unity. And if this religion doesn't bring unity, then another religion will follow. And the people of this religion will be known as the Baha'i. In the Hopi language, the Baha'i is translated to the people of Baha. And as we know, Baha'i means the people of Baha. The Dene people, the Navajo people, are located on a reservation that encompasses the four corners of the United States: New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Arizona. The Danet prophecy speaks of two specific signs that the people should be looking for. The first sign is the 9-pointed star that will come from the east, and all religions and races will come together under this sign. The second sign is the coming of twin great chiefs from the east. One of the chiefs will wear, symbolically, a headdress with 12 feathers. The 12 feathers mean 12 great principles that will be brought to mankind. These principles will be beautifully spoken from and will lead humanity from a holy mountain. For us Native American Baha'is, we know this mountain to be Mount Carmel, located in Haifa, Israel. The two most famous leaders of the Lakota people in the late 1800s were Black Elk and Crazy Horse. The late 1800s was a period that saw the decimation of many Native American populations. But both these men each had a vision of the future. Black Elk saw that his people would be plagued by famine and sickness and war. They would lose heart, and the sacred hoop of his nation would be broken. He saw a vision of his own nation being united after 7 generations and becoming part of the greater circle of humanity. He then saw the daybreak star rising in the east and heard a voice that said, "It shall be a relative to them, and who shall see it shall see much more. For from there comes wisdom, and those who do not see it shall be dark." Black Elk thought that this meant that a great prophet from the east would bring a message to his people. Crazy Horse's vision saw the darkness that descended on his people. He saw the coming of automobiles and airplanes and the world wars of the modern era. He then saw his people awakening after the last war and beginning to dance again under the sacred tree. Then he saw that dancing beside his people were people of all races who had become brothers. He saw the uniting of all of the peoples of the world. These are just some examples of North American Native prophecies that were given to us from the Creator as a mandate for us to follow. There are many more indigenous prophecies that talk about the coming of this time from all over the world. We have been told that the time to heal the past is now, despite the centuries of pain and persecution. Now is the time to join together and work in harmony to rehabilitate the planet and establish peace on earth. Abdu'l-Baha says in the Tablets of the Divine Plan, "Attach great importance to the indigenous population of America. Should they be educated and guided, there can be no doubt that they will become so illumined as to enlighten the whole world.